I'm Jeremy. I'm an intern with the Westfield River Wild and Scenic. I'm here with Shirley, and I was hoping you might be able to tell us a little bit about yourself and the property that we're on today.
All right. When we bought this property, we were living in New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
My husband was a psychiatrist there. We bought it with another family, and it's been a blessing, ever since. It's a lot of work. My husband died in 1973, and I eventually bought out the other family, so I own it now completely. It comes down from the north.
Mm-hmm.
That's Kinnybrook, and there's a big beaver swamp up there. There's a pond that we made. It goes all the way down, you can see. And actually from here, it's a pretty straight shot into the middle branch,
Okay.
down where the fairgrounds is.
Mm-hmm.
It is all beaver dam and completely wild, and I sort of have a treaty with them that they forget easily, which is that I won't bother them if they stay up there beyond the barn. But other wonderful things happen besides beavers,
Oh, yeah.
and that is otters.
Mm.
And we have otters quite often come and fish my pond.
Really, yeah.
And they're so much fun to watch. Here's our pond. The house is over here. We're over here. And the brook, this is all in this seepy part, where you find beavers and other things. And then it comes down to, you can follow it down here. It pretty much follows the road all the way down. Moss Meadow Brook comes down here, dumps in actually farther down. Yeah, here's the seep. And then it tumbles down to where she was talking about.
Great.
All right, well, we bought this place in 1964, just as they were starting to flood Littleville. And my husband and his friend were residents in psychiatry at Yale. And the cost of the farm, 180 acres, with whatever was here, was $14,000. Their son died about 6 years ago. They wanted to bring him back here and bury him here on the farm, which was very sweet. So, and we have a cemetery, by the way.
Ah.
That came with it. But the barn there is also 1800s, and that's been.
Oh, it's in beautiful shape. It looks like.
It is. It's had some work on it, but
Yeah.
It is basically in good shape. Yeah.
It's got that traditional barn red color to it.
Well, I insisted on that. The new barn colors are not orangey red.
Did you got any favorite spots around here you like to get to?
Oh, they're all favorite spots. But let's go over and look at the brook.
All right.
Pretty much the way you see it. But I'm always worried that it's going to be a major change with a major amount of water event. Yeah.
When you were on the property, was Wild and Scenic established? Was that
No.
No?
It was. I can remember when the Westfield Watershed Association started.
Mm-hmm.
So that was before that by quite a bit. So all of that was developing. This would be from between 1990 and now.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this activity is really developed in that time.
Have there been some big changes that you've noticed just being a part of the local community?
In action and activity, yes,
Yeah.
a great deal. And then in the landscape, what I just told you is that the forest is closing in on us, for better or for worse. That's not as forested as this is. That's very rocky.
Okay.
And at the top, there's a big old house. It goes back to the late 1700s, and there was a farm there, and that collects water in what was a kind of a basin up there, and then when that overflows, yes, it comes down here and dumps big time into the pond and into a waterfall down there. Bobcats have always been here. Coyotes have always been here. Bears, now they're common. They didn't used to be common at all. Moose. And this has happened over the 50 years that we've been here. And there's always been a lot of wildlife, but those in particular.
This property under a conservation easement?
All of it is, except 13 acres over there along the road.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't put easements on buildings and building lots. They leave that open because that's not what they're interested in conserving. It's about 140 acres of it are under conservation with the Hilltown Land Trust.
And can you tell me a little bit about the process of going through that?
It didn't happen overnight. There are a lot of things that had to be decided about it, and you're working with a board.
Mm-hmm.
But they knew they wanted to, they were very interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
It probably took me 5 years to get it completely finished. One of the things to remember is that they were interested in this land because it was connected to Hiram Fox and connected with a lot of other private and state-owned was conserved land. So it filled a chunk. It had contiguity. It wasn't just a piece of land in the middle of nowhere that had nice scenery that they wanted to save.
Right.
And they want to be sure that animals and plants, as they migrate with global warming, are going to have saved, preserved land and as pathways to wherever it is they're going to end up going.
What kind of uses have you had for the property here?
I ran a camp up here. And I ran a club in Connecticut, and I would open this up for the camps during the day. They got a chance to swim in the brook and swim in the river and all kinds of things, and encounter leeches and other such things that they never imagined existed before.
And you said the house had no electricity?
When we first bought it, no, it had none at all. There's no power coming down the road. There isn't now. But it's a solar with a generator backup. No close encounters. The only bear encounter we had was years ago when I decided it was a good idea to put my garbage can outside my kitchen, and they came and stole the whole thing.
Oh, jeez.
And it had mostly diapers in it from my granddaughter.
Not much of a win for that bear.
Well, as a funny thing is that she and her eventually found it again, way, way, way up there in a gorge that's part of our property.
A garbage can?
Yeah, my son and his daughter came back with it. But when it went up there, she was a baby in diapers, and that was what was in the trash can. When it came back, she was the one carrying it. This is a place that my grandkids have always loved, and they're here a lot. Brook goes right down through there. It's very pretty there, and it actually, this tree's roots grow out over the brook. But this is one of their, they'll disappear from the house and come down here even now, and they'll come back when they get hungry. Sometimes they swim in the one in front of the house. Up farther, there's a place we call the Indian Bathtubs, where I happen to own like 10 acres, and that has a couple of places that make perfect bathtubs. And when we didn't really have a good bathroom, in the summertime you could go up there and take your bath. And we have another brook that is part of our boundary for a while, Moss Meadow Brook. And that's part of our boundary line, and that's an incredibly beautiful brook, but that's a falling brook the whole way.
It's slick too. Yeah. Kind of for hand, or you got this?
I think I got it.
Alrighty.
But one never knows. Not that I haven't done this a lot.
And this water is so cool. There we are.
I'm Isabel, Shirley's oldest grandchild, and this is the place where Shirley was buried next to her husband, Clint. This is the old cemetery. Farmers that lived here more than 100 years ago. There's graves going back to the 1800s, and this was where Shirley wanted to stay. It was where she spent most of her life, and it was where she was the most happy, and I'm really glad that it's going to be preserved. So this is actually where the place where the sale of this land was closed. My grandfather came up with the people who were trying to sell him the land, but this was the place where he was like, definitely gotta have it. Okay. So one time we were hiking through the woods, and then we were on our way back along the road, and we found a totally dead, mostly decomposed fisher cat on the side of the road, and I was like, whoa, cool. So I picked it up with a stick, and we were walking back to the house, and my dad was like, you know, your grandma's gonna love that. And I was like, yeah, I bet. And so we got back to the house, and grandma came running out, and she was like, what you got there? And I was like, a dead fisher cat. And she was like, cool. She loved all of nature, including the gross stuff.